Hey, what's up everyone? Aslah here. So there are plenty of day in the life YouTube videos online, including mine, that shows you a typical day in the life of a software engineer, starting with some scenes of waking up at a certain time, making coffee, doing some light coding. But in this video, I want to give you some nitty-gritty specifics of some of the tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis without going too technical about it. And you'll be surprised to see how little of it is actually coding. And I promise this will be interesting to you if you're someone who's trying to learn to code or just got into tech industry or generally just interested in software development and programming. So without further ado, let's get to it. So I start my day somewhere between 8 to 9 depending on when my morning daily meeting is. I try to wake up at least 45 minutes to 1 hour before the meeting so I have enough time to clear my head and make my morning cup of tea or coffee and then focus on the task for the day. So the task gets assigned to you during a sprint based on its priority and deadline. And if you don't know what a sprint is, you might have heard about the word Scrum or Agile around software development and project management a lot. So Agile way of working on big project means you develop things in an increment of short period of time called sprints. So basically sprints are time-boxed periods somewhere between 1 week to 1 month during which a product owner, Scrum Master and a Scrum team to complete a specific product edition. During a sprint, work is done to create new features based on the user stories and backlog. So in Agile methodology, sprint is a way of working with bigger teams in a more collaborative and effective way. So usually a sprint iteration starts as soon as the current sprint ends, but the time period of how long a sprint is not universal for all the companies or the projects. For example, most of the projects that I was working on earlier had a sprint of 2 weeks, but on my current project, I have a sprint that lasts almost a month. That means for the first 3 weeks of the sprint, we are developing and implementing features. And during the last week, we do rigorous testing and refining of the tasks that you implemented in that current sprint. So the time period of how long a sprint lasts really depends on the project and the kind of company you're working for. So this brings me to my initial point, daily stand-up meeting. My current daily stand-up on my project is at 9:30. So this is where all the software engineers and other team members on the project come together and discuss what they did the previous day, what they're planning to do that day, and if they have any blockers. Blockers can be anything. Maybe a junior developer is blocked by certain things that the person doesn't know, and you could be the one offering them some help. Or two developers might be working on a huge user story and you might be blocking the second person. So this is the place where you could discuss these kind of things and make sure all the team are in sync with what's going on the project. So if you don't know what a user story is an informal general explanation of a software feature written from the perspective of the end user or customer. The purpose of user story is to articulate how a piece of work will deliver a particular value back to the customer. So here is an example of a user story. So it's basically a work item that gets assigned to you during a sprint that explains what you need to achieve as a feature or an implementation from an end user point of view. So if you have someone technical from the client side or the business side of things, you might also have an implementation approach of how you should achieve the specific feature. But that doesn't mean that you have to stick to it 100%, but that would be a very good start. So once your daily stand-up meeting is done, it's time to start to get coding. So depending on your task for the day, you might be working on a new feature, bug fixes, or simply some enhancements. So there is this general consensus that software engineering, it's all about writing code, but it cannot be far from the truth. Apart from writing, testing, and debugging code, collaboration is a very essential part of software engineering. So you have to attend a lot of meetings or you have to be part of a lot of meetings that happens internally on your project. where you might have some direct inputs, or you're just simply there to know or be aware of the status of these projects. These meetings could be project planning meetings, design discussions, or meetings with other teams to coordinate efforts. While long meetings are generally daunting, I try to keep mine very focused and efficient. Otherwise, it's such a time and energy killer. Like I said, collaboration is an essential part of software engineering. So this includes code reviews. So after completing a task, I send my code to other team members to review. And similarly, if they finish a task, they would assign it to me to review their code. So you will get merge request or pull request assigned to you to review new code or change in code. And without getting too technical, a git pull request or merge request is essentially merging a developer's feature branch with the project's master or main branch. So the new branch that's getting merged to your main development branch will have the change in code or the new code the developer wrote. So you review this code to make sure the quality is maintained and potentially catch some early bugs, or generally just share your knowledge with other team members. And of course, you take breaks during your normal workday. It's not full on 8 hours of coding, so I usually take my lunch break somewhere between 12 to 12:30. Taking a break is crucial to stay fresh and focused. During lunchtime, I like to step away from the computer, socialize with my colleagues, or maybe go for a restaurant that's a bit far from my apartment so I can have that short walk to clear my mind. After your lunch, you might have more meetings scheduled for the day. If you do, you attend that and continue with your development task. Another piece of important work you might have for the day on your plate is testing and QA. Quality assurance is an integral part of software development. Before any code gets released to production, it goes through rigorous testing to catch any potential bugs. So if you're developing something in development environment, before you release it to the next environment before production, you need to do a sanity check yourself. So this process might include creating your own test data to test your new feature or enhancement. And even after moving to the next environment, before your UAT team takes over, you need to do a testing yourself. UAT stands for user acceptance testing. So usually on moderate to big projects, you have a separate UAT team to test the user stories and features you developed and catch any potential bugs before it reaches the production. So between your production environment and your development environment, you might have a couple of other environments where you use it to stage your changes and test your changes before it reaches your production. This chain of environment is generally called a pipeline, something you probably might have heard of. And the process of maintaining this pipeline is called CI/CD or DevOps. So the general idea of CI/CD or DevOps is CI/CD focuses on automating the entire pipeline from testing codes to integrating them, testing the entire code base, and keeping deployment ready. Whereas DevOps focuses on collaboration and the use of appropriate automation tools to maintain this project pipeline. So the reason for having multiple environments between these extreme ends of the pipeline is generally one, it might be that your UAT or user acceptance team might have access to only a specific environment, not to any of the development environment. So they get to test all the things that you develop in a specific environment before production. And also these environments might have more realistic data than the development environment that you usually work on. So during this UAT testing, if the team catches any bugs, that might get assigned back to you if you're the person who developed it, or it might get assigned as a work item for the current sprint. This is also a work item that gets assigned to you during your sprint. So the bug that gets assigned to you doesn't always have to be something that you worked on. You might also get bugs assigned from other user stories or work items that got developed in the previous sprints. So this testing phase is really critical to ensure software reliability and quality. As the day comes to an end, I usually like to take a few minutes to note down a few things that I need to get done the next day, and also what I did the current day, so that the next day when I wake up before my daily stand-up meeting, I can refer to these pointers and talk about them during the meeting. And one other important thing that you need to do by the end of the day is commit your changes to Git. So I try to commit daily, but if you're working on a huge feature or improvement, I try to commit every end of every week. So usually I commit my changes and hit the gym. Being a software engineer is both challenging and rewarding. From collaborating with your team members to writing up code to implement a new feature or enhancement, every day might not look the same, but you do have weeks where every day looks like the previous day, but you also have weeks where every day is a new challenge. So I hope I was able to give you some insights of some of the tasks that you get to do as a software engineer on a day-to-day basis. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I will talk to you all in the next one. Cheers.